China on Monday described comments made by Turkey's foreign ministry as extremely mistaken and irresponsible regarding the alleged death of a Uygur musician in Xinjiang in the northwest of China. In a statement posted on Saturday, Turkish Foreign Ministry spokesman Adnan Akfirat alleged that Uygur poet and musician Abdurrahim Hayat had died in custody. Yet a video clip released by China Radio International shows Hayat is alive. The video, dated 10th of February, features him stating that he is in good health. On Tuesday, the spokesperson for the ruling party of Turkey also said that Turkey respects China's integrity and security, but again strongly criticized China's anti-terrorism policy in Xinjiang. Why is fake news being used time and again as the basis for finger-pointing and even policy making? Why is the Turkish government suddenly using such strong words to attack China, a potential partner in the East? And what is life really like in Xinjiang? And for all of these and many other questions, I'm joined from Shanghai by Adnan Akfirat, the China representative of the Patriotic Party of Turkey, who have personally visited Xinjiang about 20 times since 2004, and here in the Beijing studio, Victor Gao, Vice President of the Center for China and Globalization. Gentlemen, welcome to The Point. First of all, I want to explain a little bit the background of the entire policy on dealing with the extremists in Xinjiang. Now, as explained by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in China, since 1990s, there are over thousands of violent extremist and terrorist incidents in Xinjiang, and a great number of innocent people, including from different ethnic groups, have died as victims of these incidents. And yet, since this policy has been in place over the past 2 years, over the past 23 months to be exact, no violent terrorist accidents have taken place, and the rate of crime has dropped considerably. So, Victor, please help us understand exactly what does that say about the effectiveness and the intention of the Chinese government in carrying out this policy.
First of all, Xinjiang is a very vast autonomous region with 1.6 million square kilometers, and there are many different ethnic groups living in Xinjiang, and Xinjiang also borders with many Central Asian countries, including Afghanistan. And over the years, there has been a great deal of spillover of terrorist forces from Afghanistan into Xinjiang, leading to intensification of extremism, violence, and terrorism, for example. And the key point of all these violent movements is actually the separatism. There are people, especially among the Uyghur people, who demand that they want to separate Xinjiang from the People's Republic of China. And of course, in China, this is completely illegal, and no one among the 1.4 billion Chinese people at large would tolerate such extremism and terrorism and separatism. And I think over the past 2 years or so, the autonomous region government in Xinjiang has adopted new measures to create more jobs and employment opportunities among the people, especially among the Uyghur people. And it also includes more schooling and more facilities and access to better resources for the minority people in Xinjiang. And I think, as you mentioned correctly, this resulted in a greater amount of freedom and a greater amount of stability and security among the people of Xinjiang. I've been to Xinjiang many times, including my last trip about in 2017, and I can be a witness to the fact that the majority of the people in Xinjiang, including all the minorities, are welcoming such development and greater stability in the political and economic situation. So we should not be misguided by the false allegations by certain countries or by Western media about the realities in Xinjiang.
Yeah. Professor Akfirat, as I said, you have also visited Xinjiang 20 times since 2004, the last time being last September. What is your observation, especially since the last 2 years when this policy has been put in place?
Of course, the establishing and still Great Wall in Xinjiang that Mr. Xi Jinping mentioned at the beginning of the 2017 at the People's Congress in Beijing is an important measurement to reduce this extremism, reactionism, and the separatism. We think that as Patriotic Party, the Communist Party of China's policies toward Xinjiang is to gain the people, give the better condition to people, fight against the separatism. The separatism is an terrorism, and separatism is an same problem which Turkey is now facing. There is the terrorists in the south of Turkey. They want to separate Turkey, and we know them from Turkey. All these Eastern Turkestan terrorists and the Kurdistan Workers' Party terrorists are controlled by CIA.
Yeah, by the way, you are looking at images. By the way, I just want to explain to our viewers that they are looking at images coming out of Xinjiang of local people living their lives and enjoying their lives to the best they can. Dr. Gao, let me again come to you. What I understood was that after the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of China confirmed that the Uygur musician is still alive and there is the proof of the video, some commentators, some journalists and human rights activists still question the authenticity of the video, saying the video does not seem to be real, that this could be faked by China using high technology. To me, it seems that there is no way that they're going to look at this issue from any different perspective, or you know, their opinion is so entrenched that they're just intransigent on this issue, no matter whether the person is standing in front of them. Dr. Gao, do you have the same feeling? This is the kind of difficulty we're facing at this moment, the huge bias and mistrust in the Western media.
Indeed, I think it's more than bias and mistrust. It's more or less bigotry in itself, mainly because they have a presumption and they believe their presumption of the truth is the real truth. In reality, I hope the Uyghur poet who is alive, according to a Chinese report, is alive. The Uyghurs are our brothers and sisters in Xinjiang, and I have many friends among the Uyghur people, and I do wish them all the best. After all, we are all Chinese citizens living in our great country, and whatever problem there are, we can get the problems resolved. We do not need foreign intervention from Turkey or from any other country. Therefore, I hope the Turkish government can become more responsible.
Okay.
When they say someone is dead, they need to have the real proof that someone is dead, rather than relying on hearsay and claim that someone is dead while some person is still alive.
Exactly, that's the problem. When lies are repeated 100 times, a lot of people believe that this becomes truth. Let me go to Professor Akfirat. What is the motivation of the Turkish government, and as I said, the spokesperson of the Turkish ruling AK party, to finger point to China at this particular moment? What explains their stance?
Yeah, first let me to tell you, this is a lie fabricated by CIA, that Abdurrahim Hayat has been died in the custody. This is a CIA lie, so that the Western media is distributing the lies which are fabricated by CIA. The main problem in Turkey, Turkish media is under the big influence of the Western media. So the result of this, that this kind of lies, by using the Twitter, Facebook, and this kind of social media activities, it can be spreaded and it can be created. Of course, the Turkish government should be more responsible to not interfere the other countries' internal affairs. It's against the Turkish government's state tradition. The statute of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is irresponsible. Yeah, we can say that, because you cannot demand something from the other countries for the internal affairs. This
I understand that. Okay.
A person who is the president of a citizen of the China, and Turkish government could not make any comment on that, relying on the lies which was fabricated by CIA.
Speaking of interfering in other countries' internal affairs, the United States is really a master in that, and we know that some U.S. senators have reintroduced the so-called Uygur Human Rights Policy Act, and some of the witnesses who testified before the relevant congressional committee have actually been proved to have lied. For instance, this woman who claimed that she was arrested in Urumqi and that her children was taken away from her, and that she saw women dying or being crowded in prison cell. So, Victor, how do you look at the kind of ripple effect of lies being retold and policies being made on such lies, and then, you know, putting great illegitimate pressure on China to change its internal policies?
First of all, I think some of the lawmakers in the United States are really creating more antagonism among many countries in the world, including here in China, because they do not tell the truth. The political shows that they usher in the U.S. Congress are actually violating the Chinese sovereignty, and in many cases also territorial integrity. And this really creates a lot of antagonism among the Chinese people against such irresponsible statespeople in the United States. Secondly, it's not helpful at all, mainly because I think China and the United States are faced with very similar, if not common, threat of terrorism. China and the United States really need to get their acts together to cooperate more rather than being divided, because eventually, if terrorism of any kind and shape and form prevail, it will prevail against the United States as well as against China. So there will be only one united front for China and the United States to follow to fight against terrorism globally.
It should be the case. However, the idea is terrorism, there is only one way of dealing with terrorism, and I do not know, and I guess nobody knows what is the correct way of dealing with terrorism. This U.S. senator who was criticizing China, saying China is not respecting international norms in terms of dealing with people who have been who have been radicalized. What is international norm here? Dr. Gao, I have very limited time. Please help me answer this question. And what is a better way? China's way, the US's way, training these people to de-extremize them, or killing them with bombs?
For certain countries in the world, terrorism for them is not terrorism for other countries, and sometimes they instigate terrorism against other governments or other people, and this is really very abnormal and very obscene. I hope eventually there will be one single definition of terrorism, and the countries in the world can unite behind the common banner against terrorism. And I would say terrorism of all kind and shape and form should be classified as terrorism rather than being selectively classified as terrorism by a certain country and not by other countries, because otherwise the war against terrorism will not succeed.
All right. I have to leave it there. Many thanks to my two guests. Many thanks to my two guests, Adnan Akfirat, the China representative of the Patriotic Party of Turkey, and Victor Gao, Vice President of the Center for China and Globalization.